I'm very excited to be with all of you today and also to have the opportunity to introduce not one facilitator and friend, but two facilitator and friends on the call today, Sara Henry and Knox Steiner, who are both Earth Holder Community Caretaking Council members, and I'm very, very blessed and grateful to call them my friends and partners in the past. And so I'm going to read both of their bios just to um, introduce everyone to them today, and then we'll begin. So Sara Henry, the Heart in Plum Village Thailand in 2012 and received the 14 mindfulness training named True Manifestation of Offering in Blue Cliff Monastery in 2017. She grew up in Southern California and is now a resident at Morning Sun Mindfulness Center in Alstead, New Hampshire, on the stolen lands of the Abenaki people. Morning Sun also practices in the Plum Village tradition. Sara enjoys playing in communities and dedicating time and healing and transforming. To healing and transforming. She is a yoga and Thai massage practitioner, peer counselor, and person of many trades. She cares deeply about mental and physical healthcare, intersectional, racial, and social equity, and bringing modalities from her ancestral lineages into her daily life. Sara aspires to walk the path with the mahasangha with the intention to help transform seeds of discrimination and injustice into peace and refuge. And Knox Steiner, she, her, hers, ordained as true earth dwelling in 2017, also joined the Earth Holder Caretaking Council in 2017. She is a mother, peace educator, and scholar, currently working towards her doctorate with a specialization in community, liberation, indigenous, and ecopsychologies at Pacifica Graduate Institute. She writes about these topics as well as mindfulness and motherhood at stephanieknoxsteiner.com, and I'll also put that in the chat. Stephanie recently moved to Colorado on the traditional land of the Ute Nation, where climate disruption takes the form of a combination of warmer winters, drought, wildfires, and increased intensity of winter storms such as snowcanes and bomb cyclones. And today we're very lucky. They have titled their offering Turning the Wheel from Drama into Dharma. Stephanie and Sara, hand it over to you.
Thank you. This is Sara bowing in. Can you all hear me okay? Wonderful. Thanks, Simona. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. It's a very powerful sacred day and week and time, at least here where I'm also located, with the fall and the autumn leaves coming and the wind swirling everything around. I'm just so happy to be here with all of you. I woke up so excited just to bring the monastery in to wherever we are. I don't know how many of you have been able to go to the monastery before you joined Earthholder. Any monastery, any sort of retreat where you drop in and the ways of daily life kind of melt away. We don't have to cook and clean, and we just follow a schedule of the monastics. That's what I really intend to bring here. So for our schedule today, we'll keep it quite simple. We know that there's so much going on. Not only is today our teacher's 94th birthday, Indigenous Peoples Day is tomorrow. I'm having trouble hearing. Is that happening for many people? Can you give a thumbs up or sideways? Thumbs up. Hi, Daphne. All right, Carolyn, maybe Simona can help you out. So just a few minutes to share about our practice today before we begin to sit. My friend Aurora, who is one of the teachers for Earthholders, she said this term last week. I live in community and we often have conflict. I'll share more about that later and my practice with that later of what it's like to commit to being in community for the rest of my life, and then the human to human beauty of difficulty and of tension and of like rubbing up against each other. And Aurora said, "May we turn the wheel from drama to Dharma." And I was like, "Oh, girl, that's so fresh." Mm. And so Stephanie and I were talking, and it's like, what do we practice with? And what I feel in myself is like so many emotions. Just when I tap into what's happening around the world, so many tears want to come up, so much grief, and to hold it mindfully in a space where I can rely on the Sangha body, and not just the current Sangha body in these forms, but way, way before and way in the future. I've been practicing a lot with the 5 earth touchings to ask for support, to open up the cells of my heart and to invite in the many, many hands and feet and hearts and minds that have been here all along. So that's what we'll practice with this morning before we share a little bit about the relevance of these two things really intersecting, like our Sangha body and our care for the earth, Indigenous sovereignty, racism, classism, the pains that the pandemic is really inviting us to focus more in on. So we'll start with a short sit. And in this sit, maybe you would like to offer metta and loving kindness and compassion to yourself, or send it out to someone on the screen, to Mother Earth, depending on if you're in a space of receiving or giving, to see that line blur, between helper and helped, and just drop in. So we'll sit for 5 minutes, and then Stephanie and I will guide us through the 5 earth touchings. And of course, we are the earth. So if you prefer to prostrate, there will be space for that, to really lay yourself down on your floor, or maybe it will look like bending. Maybe it's putting a hand on a wall. Walls are like this really unutilized space, just touching the wall, really pressing the hand into it. Anything you like. Thank you all so much for being here. With body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of this bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend the path of anxieties and sorrow. I listen, I listen. This wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. In gratitude, I bow to all the generations of ancestors in my blood family. You may touch the earth however you like. I see my mother and my father, whose blood and flesh and vitality are circulating in all of my veins. They are nourishing every cell in my body. I see my 4 grandparents. I see all the generations of my ancestors, their expectations, their experiences, and their wisdom being transmitted from so long ago. I see that I carry in me the life, the happiness, and the sorrow of all generations, the suffering and all the elements that need to be transformed. I am practicing to transform. I open my heart, my flesh, my bones to receive the energy of insight, love, and experience that has been given to me by all of these ancestors. I see my roots. I see all of it. I know that I am only a continuation of this lineage. Please support, protect, and transmit to me your energy. I know that wherever children and grandchildren are, these ancestors are here also. I know that these parents always love and support their children and grandchildren, although they are not always able to express it skillfully because of difficulties they themselves encountered. I see my ancestors and my parents who tried to build a way of life based on gratitude, joy, confidence, respect. And as a continuation of my blood ancestors, I bow deeply and I allow their energy to flow through me. I ask my blood ancestors for their support, protection, and strength. Can rise. In gratitude, I bow to all the generations of ancestors in my spiritual family. I touch the earth. I see in myself my spiritual teachers, the ones who show me the way of love and understanding, the way to mindfully breathe, smile, forgive, and live so deeply in the present moment. I see in my teachers, all teachers over many generations and traditions, going back to the ones who began my spiritual family thousands of years ago. I see the Buddha, Christ, Allah, Gaia, the patriarchs and the matriarchs as my teachers and also as my spiritual ancestors. I see that their energy and all the generations of teachers before them have entered me and are creating peace and joy, understanding in me. I know that the energy of these teachers are deeply transforming the world. without these spiritual ancestors, I would not know the way to bring peace and happiness into my life and into the lives of my family and my society. I open my heart, my body, to receive the energy of understanding, loving kindness, and protection from the awakened ones. I ask for the support of the community of practice over many generations. I am their continuation. I ask these spiritual ancestors to transmit to me their infinite source and connection with energy, peace, and stability. I vow to practice transforming the suffering in myself and in my society, and to transmit their energy to future generations. My spiritual ancestors have had their own difficulties and have not always been able to transmit the teachings, and I accept them as they are.
In gratitude, I bow to this land and all of the ancestors who made it available. Please touch the earth. I see that I am whole, protected, and nourished by this land and all of the living beings who have been here and made life easy and possible for me through all their efforts. I see Chief Seattle, Dorothy Day, Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King Jr., and all the other ancestors known and unknown. I see all those who have made this country a refuge for people of so many origins and colors by their talent, perseverance, and love. Those who have worked hard to build schools, hospitals, bridges, and roads, to protect human rights, to develop science and technology, to fight for freedom and social justice. I see myself touching my ancestors of Native American origin who have lived on this land for such a long time and known the ways to live in peace and harmony with nature, protecting the mountains, forests, animals, vegetation, and minerals of this land. I feel the energy of this land penetrating my body and soul, supporting and accepting me. I vow to cultivate and maintain this energy and transmit it to future generations. I vow to contribute my part in transforming the violence, hatred, and delusion that still lie deep within the collective consciousness of this society, so that future generations will have more safety, joy, and peace. I ask this land for its protection and support.
I found Thomas. Hi, Thomas. I found Thomas, Mama.
That's great.
That is what's in that go box. Mom, he's talked to Thomas.
Very sweet.
He talked to him.
In gratitude, Sweetie Mama's talking to the people on the computer right now, okay? You want to listen? In gratitude and compassion, I bow down and transmit my energy to those I love. All the energy I have received, I now want to transmit to my father, my mother, everyone I love, all who have suffered and worried because of me and for my sake. I know I have not been mindful enough in my daily life. I also know that those who love me have had their own difficulties. They have suffered because they were not lucky enough to have an environment that encouraged their full development. I transmit my energy to my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters, my beloved ones, my husband, my wife, my daughter, and my son, so that their pain will be relieved, so they can smile and feel the joy of being alive. I want all of them to be healthy and joyful. I know that when they are happy, I will also be happy. I no longer feel resentment towards any of them. I pray that all ancestors in my blood and spiritual families will focus their energies toward each of them to protect and support them. I know that I am not separate from them, and I am one with those I love.
Please put the wheels on.
In understanding and compassion, I bow down to reconcile myself with all those who have made me suffer.
Please talk to Thomas. I have a car.
I open my heart.
Please talk to Thomas.
Thomas, I'm talking to the people on the computer right now. Yeah, can you listen? Thank you. I open my heart and send forth my energy of love and understanding to everyone who has made me suffer,
I have a car.
to those who have destroyed much of my life and the lives of those I love. I know now that these people have themselves undergone a lot of suffering and that their hearts are overloaded with pain, anger, and hatred. I know that anyone who suffers that much will make those around him or her suffer. I know they may have been unlucky, never having the chance to be cared and loved for. Life and society have dealt them so many hardships. They have been wronged and abused. They have not been guided in the path of mindful living. They have accumulated wrong perceptions about life, about me, and about us. They have wronged us and the people we love. I pray to my ancestors in my blood and spiritual families to channel to these persons who have made us suffer the energy of love and protection, so that their hearts will be able to receive the nectar of love and blossom like a flower. I pray that they can be transformed to experience the joy of living, so that they will not continue to make themselves and others suffer. I see their suffering and do not want to hold any feelings of hatred or anger within myself toward them. I do not want them to suffer. I channel my energy of love and understanding to them and ask all my ancestors to help them. Hello, dear friends. Can you hear me loud and clear? Okay, wonderful. That was my toddler co-facilitator, Daphne, enacting in real time some of the things that we were practicing with. But yeah, I really appreciated that. So we have many themes, well, 3 main themes that we are working with today. Turning the wheel from drama to Dharma, honoring Indigenous Peoples Day, and celebrating Thai and his continuation day, which is today. Yay. And all of these themes also in some way interrelate. And I'm going to start sharing, and then Simona and Sarah will both do some sharing on these topics as well. And the last time that Sarah and I facilitated together, it was April, and it was at the very beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. And I don't know that we imagined in October what the world would be like, or if we could have imagined that. And so this week, when we were meeting to talk about what to share this week, we were really in deep reflection on what does the moment need. And because things are changing so fast, and of course, things are changing all the time, but in these past 6 months in particular, there's been such radical changes almost on a daily basis. We've been in this deep reflection on what does the moment need. And I was thinking about what an important practice that is for these times, to really reflect on each moment, each day, and asking ourselves, how can I take care of this present moment? Which is one of the really core teachings that our teacher Thai has given us to work with. And so I'm going to start sharing a little bit about honoring Indigenous Peoples Day. And Indigenous Peoples Day is tomorrow. I've heard some call this weekend Indigenous Peoples Weekend. And in the Earthholder community for quite some time, we've had a practice at the end of our online sanghas to share the traditional lands that we are on. But I don't know that at any point we've talked about why we do this or how we might deepen this. So I wanted to share a little bit about this today. And some of what I'm sharing is from nativeland.ca, which is a resource that we referred you all to. And I also want to honor some of the Indigenous teachers and scholars I have learned from, including Dr. Erica Charlie of the University of Northern Colorado, a Navajo woman, and Anna Sewell, who is Métis and who did a webinar with Everyday Feminism. And so we honor the original peoples of the land who we are on. And I want to begin by offering an acknowledgement of the land that I am on. And this wording I've adapted from a local Abolish Columbus Day committee. And I wish to acknowledge with respect that the land I am on is the traditional homelands of the Tabawash, Northern Ute, Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Apache nations, original stewards of this land and all relatives within it. And I take a breath to allow that gratitude and acknowledgement to settle in. And so we can think about land acknowledgement as a practice. That's how I've been thinking about it. And I'm somewhat new to the lands that I'm on. I've lived in this area for about 1.5 years. And so the process of learning about the local history and local peoples is an ongoing process for me. And I'm very much still learning. And as a white settler, I know that I may make some mistakes in sharing about this, and I apologize in advance for any mistakes that I do make. And I offer these reflections with great humility. So one question we might ask ourselves about land acknowledgement is why? Why are we acknowledging the original peoples of the land? And when I was reflecting on this in relation to our practice, the word awareness comes to mind. And when we offer a land acknowledgement, we become aware of the inhabitants, the land ancestors. Many, depending on the land we're on, they may have been forcibly removed. That is the case in the land that I am on. And we can be aware of the great harm that has been done. And colonization has attempted to erase Indigenous peoples, and acknowledgement is one way that we can try to counter that attempted erasure. And yeah, for me, it's a practice of ongoing deepening awareness, awareness of the harm that has been created in the past, and awareness as well of the present conditions of the original peoples. So what are the local issues that are happening? Some other questions we can ask ourselves. We can look deeper into local histories, understanding the contemporary peoples and having relationships with them as well. And I am saying this as a white settler. I'm seeing in the chat someone saying they have Aboriginal ancestry. And so yeah, I'm speaking to about this as a white settler on stolen land, and you may have Indigenous connection to the land that you're on. So I want to honor that as well. And I know land acknowledgement looks different in different places as well around the world. And Simona will share a little bit about what that looks like in Peru. And then one question that Dr. Erica Charlie from the University of Northern Colorado asked us was, land acknowledgement is a promise, and how to fulfill that promise. And that, I find that to be a really profound question around being in right relationship with the land and the people on the land, that I do not personally have a short answer to, but it's something that I'm asking myself on an ongoing basis of how do I fulfill this promise? How do I take care of the land? Some issues here. There is the City Council is voting this week to officially make tomorrow Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. And it sounds like it's going to pass. Yes, which is very flower worthy. So supporting initiatives like that and whatever is going on in your local community. And then another question that these teachers posed is, how does this acknowledgement relate to the work that you're doing? And I was thinking about this in relation to earth holding and Thai, and how this earth holder Sangha is a continuation of Thai's teachings on earth holding. And it's very much a manifestation of our care and concern that we have for climate change and climate justice and the planet that we're leaving for future generations. My little toddler co-facilitator, Daphne, is very much a constant living example of wanting to take better care of the earth and leave her an earth that's not only habitable, but a place where she can thrive. And one of the most important ways that we can engage in this earth holding practice is through supporting Indigenous environmental justice initiatives and Indigenous sovereignty. And I believe those are two of the most important ways we can practice earth holding today. And that includes deeply listening to Indigenous people, and listening to Indigenous elders, following the lead of Indigenous youth, and protecting the land where we are. There are so many struggles right now for really protecting the land. I used to live in San Diego, and one of my deer sanghas is in San Diego, and that's near where Deer Park Monastery is. And there's a very important struggle at the border. The Kumeyaay people are in a struggle trying to protect the land against the border wall, which is very, very violently assaulting their land and their land rights. So sharing that as an example of something we may want to support, even if we're not local to that particular struggle. There are so many ways, thanks to technology, that we can support these struggles. And I saw one meme this week on Instagram that said, if you want to acknowledge the land, protect the land. So I leave that with us as a question of how can we each support Indigenous sovereignty and each protect the land where we are, and also struggles that are maybe not in our immediate area, but that are still extremely important. So thank you, dear Sangha, for listening, and I will pass it to Simona, who will share from her heart. Thank you.
Dear friends, hello from Lamay, Peru, home of the Cusco and Quechua culture. Thank you, Stephanie, for wonderful sharing and offering about the importance of honoring the Indigenous lands that we are on and our ancestors. And so calling in from Peru, when I think about land acknowledgement, I agree that this land acknowledgement, this practice of honoring the earth and our ancestors of many different forms, right? Of our ancestors in the plant life, in the corn, and in the trees, in the water, and then also our ancestors, los abuelos, and it looks quite different wherever we may go. And I would say that one particular component of land acknowledgement that I've learned and noticed and am beginning to practice with incorporating into my own way of acknowledging the land that I'm on is this concept, this teaching of Aini, which is a Quechua word here, and I guess it could be translated to mean reciprocity, and it's so maybe seen also as like today for me, tomorrow for you, today for you, tomorrow for me, and with Aini, I'm learning to practice this reciprocity with the land. And this will show up in many different ways. One is, there's a common ceremony here in the Andes called the despacho ceremony, which is a giving to the land. It's about giving from our heart and thanks for what the earth provides for us. And in this despacho ceremony, you give to Pachamama, which is the Andean word for Mother Earth. And what I've learned, Pachamama really, really enjoys sweets. Like she's got a sweet tooth, so quite common to give to Pachamama. You bring sugars, palate, sweets for the palate of. She also really likes sweet wine. Chocolates, loves chocolate. So I've been beginning to practice with giving quite a bit of chocolate to Pachamama, and so which is nice because I have a sweet tooth too, so there's quite a bit of chocolate always around. And I'm noticing even in my practice of this that it's like it's growing my own like readiness and generosity and offering as I cultivate this practice of Aini. I've noticed that I'm giving more portions of chocolate, and so I share this as just a way of, within land acknowledgement, there's this active participation and active reciprocity and active relationship between us and the land. And in that land acknowledgement, we can really be moving in our bodies, in our hearts, in our minds as we engage in this relationship. It's really a space for meeting the land and being together. And so with that, it feels very good to share about this teaching of Aini, because it is supporting me a lot, and I hope that it also touches you. And it's truly something that I'm beginning to feel is like one of possibly the building blocks of life and of the way that I walk on this earth. So thank you for listening, and I will bow out, and I believe Sara has some sharing for us.
Dear Sangha, to sort of like flow from what Stephanie and Simona shared, it might be a stretch, but when I see this idea of the dramas that we're all a part of, there's so much climate crisis happening this year, right? I mean, if it was just a pandemic, or if it was just an election between Biden and Trump, if it was just Black Lives Mattering, or if it was just fires, gigafires, or if it was just hurricanes, like all of those roots are already so much. And then all of it happening at once, and so many things I can't even name in your local communities, in places that I don't even know about yet. I feel when I hear that Thai is 94, I sit with this bothness of seeing that we're all billions of years old, and also like so much closer to Daphne's age than the Buddha's age. And to really respect the kind of closeness that I have with Daphne's age. Like Daphne and I are separated by just mere moments of experience and teachings. And that really drops me into a space of not knowing. And I'm so grateful for the practice. For me, with supporting Indigenous sovereignty here in Morning Sun, I'm the only Asian American in Morning Sun. I've lived here for 3 years, and I would like drive a long way for dim sum if there wasn't a pandemic. For those of you who don't know, dim sum is like a wonderful Asian breakfast that you can eat really anytime. And luckily, Aurora and Joaquin, two earth holders, we have ramen together. Yeah, we have little nicknames that help water seeds of my ancestral lineage in me and help me feel connected. Because there's this dance between belonging and autonomy, right? And having white ancestry too. Something I talked about with Stephanie is in decolonizing my language, which Aurora and Joaquin and I practice a lot. It's like, am I afraid of not belonging if I stand up against white like toxic whiteness? And who am I choosing to belong with if I stand up against it? And then there's this big world of unknownness, knowing that my ancestors never could do that. Like looking back at my white ancestry and the trauma and the violence that would happen if they stood up against the counter sit-ins, the protests, and then also my Asian ancestry and the defensiveness that they had to have. And all of this is such a good practice for me with in my daily life when I get really angry. Like I left my car windows down during a rainstorm and it was like the 10th time this month. And I felt so much anger. And then I knew, oh, this is like the defensiveness of my ancestors that they never got to process. This has nothing to do with my car windows right now. And not to then just repress the anger back away again, but to invite up the mindful energy from all of the Sangha gatherings, from all of you, and be like, whoa, these roots of anger go so deep, so deep. And Aurora and Joaquin are opening up a medical clinic in Keene, which is 20 minutes from Morning Sun. And I haven't done a wide amount of research yet, but I think it will be the only Indigenous people of color medical clinic in the wide area around here. And they speak Spanish. They're plant-based, and they'll be able, because they can kind of come out of the healthcare system, which is so oppressive to all of us, really. It's treating us in this really harmful way. They get to really cultivate the values and intentions that originated when they were doctors. Telling people, oh, here's a book on meditation or on getting more fiber. Let's really look at these different contents in your blood work. Let's look at your ancestry. Let's look at your mental health and your sleep. And they have like 1 hour with each patient. And that is incredibly intense for me to see a doctor who I usually go with like 3 top questions. Everything else can't matter. And I know that they're just going to send me off to a specialist, even though general doctors, like family doctors, know so much, and now they can do so many things for me. For me, this is really powerful. This is really, really powerful in taking good care of my body and in seeing the change in society is possible. So I'm really curious in the ways that I can continue to get to know Indigenous participants in my local community, and to work together in ways to bring more health outward. And I think this really connects with the energy of Thai. I was definitely one of the people last week who got stressed out about Thai passing away. Even though I've practiced with it before, I think in moments of crisis, we fall back on our best training. And I got stressed out. I was like, now is not the time. And then remembering, oh, I look at all of your faces. And I was fortunate enough to be with a dead body a few weeks ago with Aurora. A dear neighbor in Morning Sun, her sister passed away. And we took 2 hours to wrap her body in a sheet and hemp twine with marigolds, like stringing from head to toe, as we transferred her to the car. And I know that we are not our bodies. And I just need to keep on remembering it, that the trauma from our ancestors is also not ours. And the vows and the beliefs, the stories and the views, they're not ours. And this whole body is just not even mine. And then when I can have that kind of space to allow mindfulness to come up and compassion to come up in this big garden, I can see things so differently. And so then now I feel a lot more space. And it's so gratifying to be with all of you and to know that all across the world, there are thousands and thousands of people who are practicing with Thai and this energy. And there's people in Vietnam who are practicing so secretly. There's thousands and thousands. People who are practicing publicly and people who are practicing secretly. And things are continuing so strongly. There's so many flowers in the cracks. There's so many. And like, oh, that just makes me want to cry. And it's like really old tears. It's like when I started crying about my car windows, it had nothing to do with the car windows. And when there's conflict in Morning Sun, I just walk straight into the forest and let myself cry. It's like tapping into my 2-year-old self and saying, okay, what does little Sara need? And really wanting to be around people who support that. That's my main intention, is to encourage all of you to let your little inner child be as messy, as emotional as you possibly can. And it's this balance of holding, like when I showed up with Aurora for our friend's sister, it was very emotional for me too because I was close with her. But I practiced walking meditation as slowly as possible and like drinking in the sunshine and the trees and the sounds. And when I arrived, my neighbor, she was crying so much because it was time for the body to be moved. And Aurora and I felt so connected and so solid together for the entirety of the afternoon. And then I felt able to hold her and then walk away and go into the forest and take good care of myself. And that's what is so inspiring to me about the practice of sitting and walking, eating a tangerine so slowly, tasting a peanut sauce, the things from my ancestral lineage that it's like not in the product, but it's in the product. It's totally both. And it's not black and white. It's really not binary. It's really an ability to see the death and the life together and to engage with both. That no matter what happens in the election, that we'll continue to protect clean water and put ourselves in places where we use our privilege for good, whether on the interweb or at the grocery store with what we buy, or when we see a microaggression, or at a protest, or the way that we vote. All the different ways. So I really appreciate having a little time to share about this. Thank you. I'd like to offer 3 sounds of the bell as we remember the earth touchings, that we can ask for support, we can give support, and they are one and the same. Thank you. Can stretch a little bit, bring some compassion into your bodies. In case any of you are in the healthcare field, I guess we really all are, aren't we? I'm going to put the link to Aurora and Joaquin's new clinic, Monarca, which is monarch in Spanish, Monarca Clínica, in case you're curious about their model, which is very different than what I grew up with. So I'm really excited to share it out and hope to water seeds that can help change our healthcare system and make it more inclusive and open and caring in the future. So we'll transition now into our Dharma sharing space. I will bow out and pass it over to my dear sister. Thank you.
Dear Earth holders, dear Sangha, welcome back to the main room. I believe we are all here
Well, dear friends, thank you for your beautiful practice, presence, and sharing today, which, when I think about Thai's continuation day, like we and you are all his beautiful continuation, and that brings me great peace knowing that. When Sara and I were meeting earlier this week, I had written in my notes very sloppily Thai's birthday, B-Day, and then when I went back to my notes, I thought it said Thai body, and then I was thinking about the Sangha body and just how we really truly are his continuation. And on that note, pun intended, to share the merit today, we would like to sing Happy Continuation Day to Thai. So as we'll stay on mute, because if we unmute everyone and try to sing together, it gets totally chaotic on Zoom. It doesn't really work, but I'm going to lead us in it. Maybe I'll get Daphne in here. She loves singing happy birthday. And so as we sing this, I invite us to really just send our heart and our beautiful energy out to our dear teacher. And just knowing that we are breathing with him right now, and what a condition for happiness that is, and sending so much gratitude to him for all of the beautiful teachings he's given us, and the gift that his life is to the whole world, really. Hey Daphne, do you want to sing happy birthday? I'll get us started, and we'll do Happy Continuation Day. Happy Continuation Day to you. Happy Continuation Day to you. Happy Continuation Day, dear Thai. Happy Continuation Day to you. One more time. Happy Continuation Day to you. Happy Continuation Day to you. Happy Continuation Day, dear Thai. Happy Continuation Day to you. Yay! Happy Continuation Day, dear Thai. Thank you, beautiful Sangha.